why is it that you think that, because I did some research, I was watching some of your videos and whatnot, and looking through some of the communities that you interviewed and the things that they said to you and the points that you brought up. So
Mhm.
why is it that you think women and children are being shut out of a lot of different communities, a lot of different masajid? And do you think that this is something that if we continue shutting out women and shutting out children, do you think our communities can survive and thrive with the consequences that it brings?
Yeah, and I think you know the answer that we cannot survive.
Hmm.
And it's a simple question of people who are in power. They don't want more people demanding their rights from them because it complicates things.
Hmm.
People nowadays, leading our communities, they just want things to stay the same. They want the status quo to stay the same.
Hmm.
And if you look at what Joe Biden said to appease the Republican voters, I remember very clearly. He said this was like a secret meeting with some of the some of the more richer people in our society. It was leaked in a newspaper. He said nothing will fundamentally change, and that's how he got them on board to vote for him. And now he's our president.
He said
So
nothing's gonna change.
nothing will fundamentally change. We're gonna talk a little big picture stuff,
Hmm.
but don't worry, your money's safe. Your status in society is safe. And so I think our some of our leaders they want things to stay the same. They don't want too much change.
Hmm.
And when we start elevating women to positions of leadership, start making space for them in the community, when we start elevating the youth, we start developing them to be the next leaders.
Hmm.
That kind of that threatens their control,
Hmm.
and it's a problem that we have older people in the communities who they did a lot of work to build these masajid. They did
Hmm.
a lot of work to build these communities, to build these neighborhoods. But when you're in control for so long, it makes you wary of someone coming to take your throne.
Hmm.
And we noticed this. We noticed that the older people, they're not ready to pass the baton to the youth.
Hmm.
When will they pass the baton to the youth?
Hmm.
On their deathbeds is too late. There's a
Yeah.
youth who there's a youth I know who the generation before me at my masjid, the age between now today they're probably in their late 20s, 30s.
Hmm.
These people, they grew up in the masjid, but they were never given space, and so they drifted away from the masjid. And so when the leaders of the community, when they start to let's say, first of all, let's say retire, meaning that they can't keep the money flowing in in the masjid anymore, they can't keep the lights on. When they start to retire, when they start to, you know, pass away, who's going to keep the lights on? Who's going to keep the events going? Who's going to keep the masjid active?
Hmm.
If you're not passing the baton on to the youth, then the masjid dies. And like you asked me the question, can the community survive? No, the community cannot.
That's very true.
And you need the women in the community because the women are educating and they're spending the most time with the youth.
Hmm.
Um, so we need every aspect of the community involved. You can't
Hmm.
exclude the women, you can't exclude the youth, and the men, of course, they're already involved. But
Hmm.
every aspect of the family needs to have space in the masjid, needs to feel like they're part of it. When a person doesn't feel like they're part of the community, then they slowly drift away, and then the network, the beehive, loses someone. We all need to be together so that we can build something strong, and
Hmm.
everyone has to feel like they have skin in the game, that they have a seat at the table.
Hmm.
Without that, we lose our resources, and we eventually we fail.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. And when you were mentioning the thing about how we need to have the women and the children involved, it's so important because we're trying to have a community. We're not trying to have this giant man cave or something, right? So if we want to have a community, then as you said, we need to have everybody from the community involved, and we need to make them feel involved, make them feel welcome, not make them feel like they are burdens and they're unwelcome and that they don't have any space and that they're also a waste of space at the same time. Because then we have a
Mhm.
whole lot of other problems. We have a whole lot of other problems, and subhanallah, it's so funny to think about this because this should never be an issue. Like, when we go back to what the Prophet ﷺ tells us, we should want for our brothers what we want for ourselves, right? And as you were saying, the people who are in power in the community, they don't want anybody else to have what they have. They don't want anybody else to come up to their level because they don't want things to change. But we're supposed to
Yeah.
want for them what we want for ourselves. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, we don't have that emphasis. Like our priorities are all sorts of out of whack. And yeah, it's scary when you think about it because these are the things, and we're seeing this a lot. I know we've seen it with a lot of people from our community, a lot of the youth from our community. They just feel that disconnect with Islam, and they just pushed away in terms of belief, in terms of actions, and sometimes they actually go ahead and leave Islam, like they completely and totally renounce it. And it's terrible because you know they were kind of pushed into that position, forced into that position. I mean, each one of us is responsible for our actions, but at the same time, you can't just ignore all the factors that push somebody to making this decision. Right? It wasn't
Yeah,
just one
exactly.
little thing overnight. It was like, yeah, I'm not going to be Muslim anymore. I don't like it. No, it was all the times that he went to the masjid and he got yelled at or he got slapped around or people told him like, no, you can't do this here. He was trying to play basketball or something and people were telling him, yelling at him or shouting at him, or the sisters that came into the community, they're trying to hold an event for sisters and they got denied and they got pushed out and they said that sisters' place is at the home. Well, why would they keep coming? Why would they feel welcome there? Why would they
Hmm.
see the beauty in something that has done nothing but shown them hatred? Right?
Yeah.
And it's terrible. It's very terrible and very disturbing. But that's the reality that we're facing with a lot of these, a lot of our communities and a lot of individuals.